Hello. How is everybody doing today? Happy Wednesday to all of you. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is where you are watching right now. I hope you're having a great day. If you're not watching live, then and you're watching on the replay, I still hope you're having a great day. But I hope you can come join me live the next time we have a lesson. All right, so today we have a great lesson. We're going to be doing some advanced ways how to give advice. Okay, so advanced ways how to give advice. It's going to be a really useful lesson. I think this is, if you can learn how to use this grammar that I'm going to teach you, you'll start to speak more and more like a native English speaker. It's a really useful way. It just adds to your kind of repertoire of English, right? I think many people have probably learned how to give advice. I think a lot of people will give advice by saying you should, or you ought to, which is great. That's a great way to give advice, and it's probably the most common way to give advice. But sometimes we want to use different ways to give advice. And that's what we're going to practice today. A little bit more advanced way to give advice. And if you look at the lesson title, you can see that we will be using the phrase instead of. So that's what we'll do today. We're going to be using instead of. And as always, I'm going to put my lesson onto the screen. And I'm going to do that right now for you. And we're going to go over a little bit of grammar. We're not going to talk too much about grammar. We're going to get right into the lesson, right into you speaking and using English. There's the lesson we're going to study today. And Supergirl, hello. How are you today? I hope you're having a great day. Thank you for joining. It's always good to see you here. Funny Boards, hi, how are you? Hope you're having a great day. How is your Wednesday treating you? All right, today's lesson is going to be great. We're going to be learning, how to use instead of, but we're going to use it in a way to give advice. So not bad, that's good. Me too. It's been I've been not bad as well. It's been a good day today. I exercised, I worked. It's really hot here in Tokyo, and it rained a lot, so I stayed indoors mostly. But yeah, not bad day. And the Olympics are kind of on. The time difference is really tough over here, so I only watch a little bit of it. But let's jump in. Let's jump into today's lesson, using instead of. Now, I think a lot of times, I've done a lesson on instead of, and I've used it in a different scenario, a different way. I've used instead of to say that, I would prefer one thing over another thing. So I would want one action, but not another action. So for instance, if you said, if I'm getting a salad and I don't like the dressing, right? So maybe I could say, can I get ranch dressing instead of Italian dressing? So basically here I'm saying, I don't want Italian, I want ranch. Oh, I didn't put that onto the screen. There you go. It's on the screen now. Can I get ranch dressing instead of Italian dressing? That's how we normally would use instead of, but today we're going to use it differently. We're going to use it to give advice. So we got, wow, Japan did a fantastic job in the Olympics. I think so. I've been trying to watch the Olympics. Like I said, it's tough because of the time difference, and I have noticed that they've been doing well in different events. Personally, I'm keeping tabs more on Canada. How is Canada doing? I kind of follow them more. But I have seen some news here. I think judo, they're doing really well in judo. I think they did really well in men's gymnastics. I don't know what else they've done well in. I think they're doing really well in soccer. In lieu of, yeah, but you could say that. In lieu of is a little bit more formal. So I personally have never used in lieu of. But yeah, you could say that. Right? But yeah, instead, it means instead. But yeah, it's very formal. So you follow mostly basketball. Yeah, I did watch the game yesterday. The Japan against France game. I did watch it. And yeah, they almost won. In fact, I think they should have won. I think the referees made a really bad call at the end there. It was unfortunate for them. It would have been, I think, a very historic win if Japan could have beat France in basketball. So yeah, it was unlucky. A lot of upset Japanese fans today, basketball fans. Again, personally, I'm Canadian, so I was watching the Canadian basketball, and luckily, Canadian basketball team was able to beat Australia yesterday. Really tough match. Both teams were really good. Okay, so instead of, we're not going to be using it how I've got on the screen here. That is not how we're going to use it today. We're going to use it more for advice. So let's look at this screen. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. So it says right here, we're going to use, instead of to give alternative advice or alternative suggestions. Okay. So in this situation, we're kind of giving advice, but we're giving an alternative. So maybe my friend has already decided some course of action, and I think my friend's decision is not the best. I think there is a better decision. So this is how I would use instead of. So I would say, instead of doing your idea, why don't you do blah, 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 or you should do blah, blah, blah. All right. So if we look at the grammar is going to follow this pattern here. So instead of, and then after instead of, we are going to need an ing verb. Okay. It has to be an ing verb here. Okay. So instead of, then ing verb. Then after that, we can give, why don't you? We could say let's. We could say, I think we should. I think you should. Or, we could even just say simply, I could add here, just put a little plus mark here. You should. Right? So this is where you give the alternative advice or a suggestion. Now, when we're talking about suggestions would be these two. A suggestion is kind of like your idea. It's your idea. And then advice is going to be the bottom ones here. So here, whenever I use should, I'm giving advice. All right. So I want you to remember that grammar pattern. Instead of plus, we're going to use a verb ing. Right. And then we could say things like, why don't you, or you should. Okay. So I want you to remember this grammar right here. Instead of plus the verb ing, why don't you, or you should, or I think you should, or let's. Now, we could also use this for the past tense. Okay. We could also use this for the past tense. So instead of why don't you, I might question your idea. So you did something, and I think it was wrong. I think it was an incorrect choice. So I might make a sentence like this. Instead of verb ing, why didn't you blah, blah, blah? All right. So let's look at an example sentence, right? So let's say we have two people talking, okay? We got two friends talking. We got person A, and then we've got person B. Person A says, I have a cold, so I think I'll just stay in bed. I have a cold, so I think I'll just stay in bed, right? Now, person A's friend, maybe they think this is not a good idea. Maybe they have an alternative idea. And so person B says, instead of staying in bed, why don't you go to the doctor? Instead of staying in bed, why don't you go to the doctor? Right? So I'm using the first pattern here. Instead of staying in bed, why don't you go to the doctor? So if I am the friend, if I am person B, I'm saying, I don't think your idea of staying in bed is good. Going to the doctor is a better idea. So I'm going to give you that idea. So instead of doing your idea, why don't you go to the doctor? All right. Funny words you got here. Instead of drinking fizzy drinks, why don't you drink, I would say here, still water, not potable water, but still water. Still water. Still water is be the opposite of the fizzy drinks. All right, let's look at the next situation. Here we've got two friends, they're going to meet. So person A says, hey, let's meet at the station. Let's meet at the station. But person B, the friend says, well, I might be late. So instead of meeting at, oh, I made a mistake here. Let's correct this. I might be late. So instead of meeting at the station, let's meet at the restaurant. All right, so this one is going to be incorrect. So I want you to ignore this one. All right, so let's meet at the station. Well, I might be late, so instead of meeting at the station, let's meet at the restaurant. Right? I don't want you to wait at the station for a long time. So I think it's better that you go to the restaurant. Maybe you can go first. We'll meet there. So if I'm late, at least you can relax in the restaurant. All right, so here we're going to use, remember the grammar we're using today is going to be instead of verb ing, why don't you, or you should, or let's, why didn't you, you should have. Okay, all of these can be used. So let's look at the very first situation. We're jumping right in. We're not going to go over any more grammar. I'll give you the first one together. We'll do the first exercise together. Once you get an idea, then next you can do the rest. So in this next section, I'm going to give you a scenario, right? And my scenario says, I feel tired after work. I go to work 5 days a week. I always feel tired after work. And my idea is, okay, I'm tired. Maybe exercise will help me. Maybe exercise can help me feel more, energetic or more motivated. Okay. Now, maybe this is my friend thinks that's a bad idea. So my friend is going to say this idea of exercise is not good. So I'm going to give you alternative advice, right? So we could say, instead of exercising, why don't you just go home and sleep? This is going to be a question technically. Instead of exercising, why don't you just go home and sleep? You know, we could say, instead of exercising, why don't you, go and get a massage? There can be many, many answers here. All right. So what your job here in this next exercise is, you're going to see a scenario and then an idea for that scenario. Okay. Please reject that idea and give me alternative advice, an alternative suggestion. Okay. Let's try one more together. Fighterboard's got a good answer here. Instead of exercising, why don't you put on a CD and drown in soothing music? No ing. Why don't you put on a CD and drown in soothing music? So when you have the word and, Fighterboards, because you have the word and, whatever the verb is before and, if it's ing, if it's infinitive, if it's past tense, after and must be the same form. So here you've got put on, which is, regular present tense. So drown must be drown, no ing. Yeah, I like it. Instead of exercising, why don't you put on a CD and drown in soothing music? Miranda, hi. How are you, by the way? I like your answer. Hello. And so instead of exercising after work, why don't you exercise in the morning? Yeah, that might give you more energy. All right, perfect. Fighting boat is great. Fix the drown. Excellent. All right. So I think we got the idea of what we're supposed to do. So let's look at number 2. So I want you to give me alternative advice. Okay. So these are all my ideas. So my computer is running slowly. So my idea is, let's upgrade the computer. Let's upgrade the software. But maybe you guys think that's not a great idea. Maybe you have an alternative idea, a different suggestion, different advice. So if so, please tell me, why is my idea wrong and what is your idea? All right, so upgrade means that you are going to maybe install new software. So maybe your software is version 10.1. So if you upgrade, you're going to move to version 11. So, smartphones, we all have smartphones. I have an iPhone. Usually every month iPhone sends me a message. Please update your software. Upgrade means you're getting a better one. Okay. So upgrade, similar, but they are different. Upgrade means you're going to install new software, or upgrade means you can throw the old computer away and buy a better computer. All right, so Fighterboat, is you have, instead of upgrading your old computer, just buy a cloud service and use Ultra Supercomputer over the net. Okay, first part's great. Instead of upgrading your old computer, just buy a cloud service and use Ultra Supercomputer. Ultra Supercomputer is probably not so commonly used. And then over the net, I wouldn't really say that. instead of upgrading your computer, just buy a cloud service. And use your ultra supercomputer. Use ultra supercomputer over the net. That one I wouldn't say. That last part is a little strange. Maybe I would just buy a cloud service and maybe delete all of your big files. That's better, Friday bonus. Use the computer via the internet. That would work. Use your computer. I would say use your computer via the internet. Miranda, instead of upgrading, let's update it in the first place. Yeah, maybe an update would work. Maybe an update would help the computer run faster. Yeah, I'm in a similar kind of idea here. So instead of upgrading to a new computer, you should delete all of your big files. Instead of upgrading to a new computer, you should delete all of your big files. So you upgrade to something. Okay, upgrade to something. Upgrade to a new computer. Upgrade to a new car. All right. All right, number 3. I can't sleep at night. My idea is caffeine related. Maybe it doesn't mean I'm going to drink caffeine. Maybe it means less caffeine. I'm just giving you an idea. I want you to use that idea to make a sentence. So number 1 and 2 is easy because exercise is a verb. Upgrade is a verb. Here, caffeine is not a verb. It's a noun. So I need you to figure out maybe what my idea is related to caffeine. All right, again, instead of ing and then why don't you, you should, I think something is a good idea or is a better idea. I think for me, obviously if you drink caffeine, that could be one of the reasons why you can't sleep at night. So it kind of doesn't make sense. So maybe the person's original idea is maybe instead of giving up caffeine, why don't you just stop drinking coffee after 5 p.m.? Vitamins, I like it. Instead of taking drugs to help you sleep, why don't you cut back on caffeine? Perfect. Perfect sentence. Does caffeine keep you awake? Does caffeine keep you awake? It doesn't keep me awake like at night. I can drink coffee anytime. In fact, I've got an iced coffee in here, and I'll have no problem sleeping. Miranda, instead of cutting back on caffeine, why don't you listen to, and I know you put 2 in there already, why don't you listen to some meditation music before sleeping? Sometimes it helps me. Sometimes it helps me. Okay, not it is helping me, but sometimes it helps me. So instead of cutting back on caffeine, why don't you listen to some meditation music before sleeping? So sleeping, ing, or before you sleep. Sometimes it helps me. Excellent. Okay, number 4. The scenario. Let's make this a little smaller. There we go. The scenario says, I'm worried about my job interview tomorrow. Okay. Now, something related with worry. You doze off after drinking coffee. Wow, it's got the opposite of effect for you. And Miranda, it helps you. Yeah, it helps me during the daytime, and it keeps me alert as well. But it doesn't keep me awake. If I want to sleep, I can sleep. The energy drinks, on the other hand, they always keep me awake. Sometimes I can't sleep if I drink that at night. So I'm worried about my job interview tomorrow. I have no idea. I'm just going to worry. I'm just going to worry. And that happens. Sometimes people, when they stress out, they're worried about something. All they do is worry. It's a terrible cycle to get into, but it happens to everyone. But what is your advice now for this person or for me if I'm worried about a job interview? I'll give you my answer as well. All right, that would be my idea. Instead of just worrying, you should do a mock interview with a friend to practice. Miranda, instead of worrying, you should sleep well and be positive. Yeah, it's a great idea. It's a great idea. It's always good to be positive. And sleep is so important. Instead of worrying about the interview, Miranda, Friday Boys, instead of worrying about the interview, let your hair down. Okay, let your hair down is a little bit different. Let your hair down means that you should stop. You're very uptight. You're always worried. You're always working. You're always focused on job or school. So let your hair down means to forget about that. Just go out with your friends, have fun, paint the town red. So a little different. Let your hair down means to kind of go and have fun. But this is talking about an interview. So you probably wouldn't let your hair down at an interview. It would be, you don't want to be like having fun at the interview. Instead of worrying, you should just be yourself. Just be yourself. Instead of worrying, you should think about what they may ask you. Right? So we practice the future modal verbs, right? So this would be one of those answers. They may or they will ask you. All right, let's look at number 5. I'm bored on weekends. I'm bored on weekends. Fighting Borders, I like it. Be yourself and stay firm. I like it. Nice. I'm bored on weekends. My idea is TV. And you know what? That's actually me. Right now, recently, this week has been a very, very boring week for me. And I have watched a lot of, nah, not really. I want to watch TV, but there's nothing to watch. My first idea when I'm bored is TV, though. Do you guys have an alternative suggestion for me? In fact, tomorrow actually, not that I'm bored. I'll be busy tomorrow, but I am planning to watch a movie tomorrow. I am planning to watch a movie tomorrow, and I'm very excited about it actually. All right, so who has an idea for me? Okay, so we've got. But it was instead of watching TV like switch the words, a couch potato. Instead of watching TV like a couch potato, why don't you go out with your friend and play one-on-one? I think you're gonna say one-on-one at a nearby court. Instead of watching TV like a couch potato, why don't you go out with why don't you go out with your friend and play one-on-one at a nearby court? That is a great idea. That is a great idea for Funny Boys, except for the fact I would probably melt. It's so hot here. But I probably would melt. I am going to play basketball tomorrow. Great. Couch potato. Perfect, Funny Boys. Miranda, instead of watching TV, why don't you read books or meet your friends? Yeah, perfect. Perfect. I am planning to go watch a movie tomorrow, though. I'm going to play hooky from work for a little bit. I'm going to skip work for a couple of hours. And I'm going to watch Deadpool. I'm going to watch Deadpool tomorrow. Oh, and one, the video game. Are you talking about the video game Fighting Bros? Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's better. That way I won't melt outside. That's a better idea. I usually don't play and one, though. If I do play a basketball game, it's always going to be NBA 2K. Watching movies is great. Do not know Deadpool, though. Deadpool this is like the third Deadpool. The main actor, his name is Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds. He's actually a Canadian actor, but very, very famous Hollywood actor. It's kind of like the anti-hero superhero movie. It's like the main character is kind of like a crazy person, but he's kind of a hero, but he's not nice either. It's very violent. It's rated R, but there are so many famous actors coming into this movie. And it was just released last week. It's been a huge success. So I'm going to try to skip work tomorrow for a couple of hours and watch it. Deadpool, really, really good. Yes, Ryan Reynolds, a fellow Canadian. He's from my hometown. All right, I like everybody's ideas for being bored on the weekends. All right, here's a little bit more difficult situation here. My plants are not growing well. My idea is fertilizer. Okay, fertilizer is like special material that you would put in the soil for plants to help them grow. You think I started to watch it, but You stopped it. You didn't like it. Yeah, it's very violent. So I can understand people stopping to watch it. It's rated R in America. In Canada, rated R means it's restricted. So anybody under 18 years old cannot watch it. It's just because there's a lot of violence in it. But even though it's rated R, this new movie has been extremely successful. But yeah, I understand that. A lot of people don't like blood and violence. All right, so number 6, my plants are not growing well. My idea is fertilizer. Go to the home center, the Home Depot, get some fertilizer, spread it into the plant pots, or spread it into my garden to maybe help them grow. So there are probably a lot of little different ideas we could say here. So instead of all right, I think I got Miranda's idea here. I like this one. Miranda, instead of fertilizing, maybe you should just water it. Yeah, maybe I've forgotten to water them. So just watering it would be okay. Yeah. Firebirds, instead of staring at your tiny plants in your garden, let's apply some fertilizer to help them grow. There you go. You use fertilizer as the advice. Perfect. So my idea was just to stare at my tiny plants. Let's apply some fertilizer to help them grow. Perfect. Or add fertilizer to the potted or your potted plants. Yeah. I have another one that I would say. I'm just going to try to adding new vocabulary in these answers. So instead of using fertilizer, why don't you use compost? All right, and so instead of using fertilizer, why don't you use compost? Does anybody know what compost means? What does compost mean? What do you guys think compost means? So compost is something that a lot of people use for plants and gardens. It's like a fertilizer, but it's basically just food scraps. If you're cooking food, you peel your potatoes, or you have banana peels that you've eaten. So Supergirl has an answer here: natural fertilizer. Yeah, it's basically a natural fertilizer. So any of the old food waste, we collect that into a bin, and that would be like a natural fertilizer. We would put that in the flower area, and it helps to grow the plants. All right, let's look at the next one. Number 7, I often forget important dates. My idea is just like a calendar, or maybe calendar is the idea. You can decide. Do you have to use should just go after? Yeah, maybe you just should. You could say it in conversation, you'd be fine, Miranda. If you put just should, it would be fine, but it's more natural to use just after should. A lot of times, whenever you're going to use a word like this, like an adverb, we tend to put it between the two verbs because we have a verb should, and then we have a second verb water, right? We always want to put our adverbs between them. So they always go before the main verb. And here the main verb is water. Okay, so that's a really great question, Miranda. And so general rule is you're going to have your, let's say your modal verb plus adverb, then plus main verb. Okay, so modal verb plus adverb and then main verb. So modal verb is just a fancy word, meaning it's like a helping verb, right? So if we look at that, then we're looking at should is my helping verb, just is my adverb, water is my main verb. So it would look like that. So modal verb should, adverb just, main verb water. That's usually the common way we would use it. But if you put it at the beginning in conversation, it's completely fine. Don't worry about it. All right, so we've got an answer here from Fadibos about the I often forget important dates. Instead of marking a mark on a rolled fabric calendar, use your phone to notify your important dates. Okay, so what I would say here, Fadibos, is instead of using a paper calendar, not a fabric calendar, but a paper calendar. So instead of using a paper calendar, instead of marking it on a paper calendar, use your phone to notify you of important dates. Use your phone to notify you of important dates. Okay, instead of marking it on a paper calendar, use your phone to notify you of important dates. Great answer. That's what I do. All of my important dates, birthdays, all of these things are always on my phone. So yeah, marking on a paper calendar. Perfect. Miranda, instead of forgetting important dates, let's just block off the calendar. Okay. Block off the calendar means that you will not schedule anything during that time. So if you said, "Hey, Shelly, let's go have lunch," you know, you promised to have lunch with me for like 1 month, so let's have lunch sometime next week. So then I would say, okay, you know what? All right, I'll block next week off in my calendar. That means I will not schedule anything next week. So a little different there. So here, forgetting important dates, I don't want to forget them. I'm just doing it. I just forget it. So which is not a good thing. So my idea is, you know, instead of, you know, writing the important dates down, why don't you Instead of trying to remember them, that's a good one. Here's a simple one I could say. Instead of trying to remember all of the important dates, you need to write them down. All right, so instead of trying to remember all the important dates, you need to write them down. Rolling calendar. What do you mean by rolling calendar? What do you mean by rolling calendar, Funny Boys? And Paramesh, hello. How are you today? How are you today? I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. I'm doing well. And Miranda, perfect. Perfect. Those are two really good words for calendars. I like that. I like that you actually said that, Miranda. So you're gonna, block off your calendar. That's a great idiom. Block off your calendar. A great phrasal verb. Another one that I like when we talk about calendars is to. I often say this: pencil it in. All right. So pencil it in. It means I'm going to write it in my calendar. I'm going to write it in my calendar. I'm going to schedule it in my calendar. Parmesh, you're superb. Wow, great. Why are you superb? What's going on? Sounds like you're having a great day. So rolling calendar, I'm still not sure if it is. If you do have an idea, if you know if you can explain that a little bit more, let me know. But I've never heard of rolling calendar before. I've heard of, just a paper calendar. I've heard of pin-up calendar, where you pin it onto the wall. You get a pin, you pin it on there. So pin-up calendar, I've heard of that. A rolling, like we can move through the months. Yeah. I would just call that a calendar. We don't really, the action of going over the months is something we probably wouldn't use rolling for. So Miranda, you wanted to say there are important dates slipping your mind. Does that work? Yeah, you're almost there. Okay, good, Funny Boys. What I would say for slipping my mind, right? A lot of times what we'll say is something, and I'm going to put keeps in the sentence. Something keeps slipping my mind. Okay. Something keeps slipping my mind, or it slipped my mind. That means I was trying to remember it, but I couldn't. I was trying to remember it, but I couldn't. And it just kind of left my memory. So you could say things keep slipping my mind. That's okay. Things keep slipping my mind, or important dates slip my mind. You could say important dates slip my mind. I would use present tense. Slip my mind in that situation. It's a great phrase. Slip my mind. For one thing, the one thing I do want you to be careful about with slip my mind, we don't usually use this to talk about something that always happens. If I always forget something, then we don't really say slip my mind. Slip my mind is usually happening, one time. It's for a kind of a selected situation. I was supposed to buy flowers for my friend's birthday, but I completely slipped my mind. Right? So it's just kind of like a one-off event. It's not something that always happens. So Paramesh, just to get you up to date here, this is what we're doing today. We're using the phrase instead of plus the verb ing, and then using why don't you, or you should, or you could, or why didn't you, let's. You're giving me some ideas, some suggestions, or some advice. So number 8, the scenario, I want to get fit. I want to get fit. And maybe my idea is the gym. I want to get fit. My idea is the gym. So funny about it, if you block something off your calendar, that means you completely you cancel those days, right? So let's just try to make a sample. Let's say this is the sampler calendar right here, and we've got the days are right here. All right, so let's say this is the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, and on those 3 days, I'm gonna block those days off, right? I don't want to schedule anything. So basically, I just block it off. I'm not going to schedule anything on those 3 days. So you block off 3 days in the calendar. I block off my calendar. I blocked off next week. So I never slipped my mind on my daughter's birthday. So I'd say my daughter's birthday never slips my mind. My daughter's birthday never slips my mind. Yes, of course, Paramesh. You can't forget your daughter's birthday. You can't forget that. How old is your daughter, Paramesh? Or is this just an example sentence? In the meantime, let's look at number 8. I want to get fit. My idea is the gym, or maybe you can use gym as the suggestion. Who can make a sentence using this? Just an example sentence. Okay. But yeah, I think you definitely can never forget your child's birthday. It's a great sentence. I'm going to give it my example sentence here. What I'm trying to do with my sentences, with my answers, I'm trying to introduce some new vocabulary. I'm trying to introduce vocabulary that's kind of common in current culture right now. All right, so I'm not trying to make these like difficult on purpose. I'm just trying to introduce new vocabulary. But before I put my answer, Miranda has an answer here. It says, instead of hitting the gym every day, why don't you follow a healthy diet? Perfect. Perfect. Instead of hitting the gym every day, why don't you follow a healthy diet? I love that you used the verb hitting, right? Hit the gym. Hit is a great verb. Hit means to go. And it's not only for gym, we can use it for many situations. Right? I need to hit the ATM before I go to the movie tomorrow. I need to hit the ATM. I'm not going to physically hit the ATM machine. I'm just going to go there. All right. I like this, but you've switched it. You've given the advice at the beginning. All right, let's read your advice. Why don't you block off some days on your calendar to maintain a good level of fitness with simple routines instead of nagging around with a grimacing face? That was almost perfect. That was like 99% perfect, Fighting. Just the one instead of nagging around with a grimacing face. Grimacing. You didn't write grimacing there. You wrote grimming face. I would say grimacing is better. Grim. I would say if you're trying to say grim, no ing, just a grim face. Or you could say grimacing face. And then don't forget the article, grimacing face, grim face. I'm going to give you my answer here. Instead, you know what? I'm going to make it as a banner. Let's make this as a banner instead. It makes it a little easier for people to read. All right, so instead of going to the gym, okay, here's my idea. Instead of going to the gym, why don't you try intermittent fasting? Instead of going to the gym, why don't you try intermittent fasting? A grim face, perfect, Fighting Boys. Or a grimacing face, perfect. So here I'm introducing something that's quite common in current culture in the US, in Canada, in Australia, probably quite popular here in Japan now as well. Intermittent fasting. Not as popular here in Japan, but very popular in the US, very popular in Canada. Does anybody know what intermittent fasting is? Yeah, intermittent fasting, Fighting Birds. It's not continuous fasting. What is fasting, Fighting Birds? What is fasting? What is fasting? But you are right. It's not continuous fasting. So fasting here is a noun. And what we have here, Miranda, so like when they do not eat long hours. Yes. No food in a certain time. Yeah. So fasting is when, basically you are not going to consume any food. You're not going to eat any food for a certain period of time. And a lot of people do it for many different reasons. I think traditionally a lot of people did it for religious reasons. My mom does fasting all the time. But recently it's become a new type of health, sort of health activity. It's very popular. Intermittent fasting means, for a certain part of the day you won't eat, or for a certain number of days you won't eat. Some people will do it like 16 hours a day they don't eat, 8 hours they eat, or 20 hours a day they don't eat. One of my friends did it for 36 hours, no eating. Another friend did it for, I think, 3 days without eating. And apparently it's really good for you. It's really good for your body. It helps with you to lose weight, but it also helps to kind of get your system working well. Fighting Boys, I can't. It's so tough. I've done it once. I did it for 36 hours, no eating, just water. And it was tough. It was very tough, but it was great. I really liked it. Keto diet is a little bit different. I think keto diet is you're limiting certain foods, right? Keto diet is going to be more, you can eat a lot of fat-friendly foods. but not really any carb foods, no carbohydrates. But yeah, it is similar to that, but you still can eat something, I think. Ignore food sometime. Yeah, it's right, Parmesh. Yeah, I did it for 36 hours. And physically, I didn't feel any difference in my body. But mentally was amazing. I felt so clear. My brain was working so much faster. All right, so we got intermittent fasting. It's a new, very common word that you'll hear in pop culture in America and Canada. All right, number 9. Number 9 says, I struggle with time management. An idea, or maybe the problem, social media. Fighters, wow, yeah, that's the one thing that really surprised me. I was expecting to feel physically different, but I didn't feel anything physically different. I probably lost a little bit of weight, but just mentally, how fast my brain was working. After I broke it with like a soup. I drank a really light soup to begin to break it. Soup and a little bit of yogurt. And it's weird because I hate both of those things. I don't like soup and I don't like yogurt, but I wanted something stomach friendly. But the brain, just before I know I'm continuing to say this, but the being really clear headed, that continued for like 2 days after as well, even after breaking it. It was really, really good. But I haven't done it again. So that tells you another thing. I struggle with time management. Number 9, I struggle with time management. Social media. What can we say here? Let's get this one answer off, and let's put this up here. Now I'm going to put my answer as a banner as well. Okay, I've got my answer ready to go. I'll put it once I see other people's answers. I'm trying to use words that are really commonly used right now. So let's save that. And in the meantime, we've got an answer here. Fighterboards first. Instead of scrolling hours on YouTube, not in YouTube, on YouTube to watch short clips, why don't you ignore it for a moment and take your time with more productive activity? With maybe, because you got activity, you need to put with more productive activity. If you will put activities, then you don't need the instead of killing time, you don't need to put you here or your. Instead of killing time with social media, you should watch some beneficial educational videos. Yes. And I was very similar to both you guys. I was very similar. I said, instead of scrolling on your phone all day, you need to make a to-do list and stick to it. Instead of scrolling on your phone all day, you need to make a to-do list and stick to it. Okay, let's do one more. Let's do one more, and then I'll give you one for homework as well if you guys want. All right, so number 10. I think this is a problem for everybody. Everybody who has a smartphone has this issue. Your phone battery drains quickly. It drains quickly. I really like that, drains. It's a great verb. Let's see. Perfect, Fideboard is nice. You corrected it. Excellent. Yes, you could. Excellent. You could say that. Yes. You could watch. You should watch. Yeah, I like that. Could is you're offering a possibility. All right, so your phone battery drains quickly. All right, drain is the hole in the sink. You know, if you go to your kitchen, if you go to your bathroom, you turn on the faucet, water is coming out of the tap. It's going to go down the drain, right? The drain is the pipe that where the water goes in, right? So here your battery is draining. That means the battery is going down the drain. It means you don't have any battery left. It's draining quickly. We've got Paramesh here. Instead of going to enjoy it with your family, why don't you waste your time on social media? I would do the opposite, Paramesh. Opposite here. Instead of wasting your time on social media, why don't you enjoy some time with your family? Right? So you just need to switch it. Instead of wasting time on social media. So instead of plus the bad action, then the good action. So instead of wasting time on social media, why don't you Does that make sense, Paramesh? Okay, Miranda, your answer for number 10. Why don't you delete the apps you do not use instead of keeping them? Maybe they cause the battery to drain. Maybe they cause the battery to drain. Nice. So just put that 2 in there and you'll be perfect. And find out if you have an answer here as well. You should buy a brand new phone with a replaceable battery instead of dealing with your clunky phone with lots of apps. Yeah. You should buy a brand new phone with a replaceable battery instead of dealing with your clunky phone with lots of apps. Yeah, sure. Miranda, battery to drain. Perfect. This is from the previous one, pretty much. Instead of wasting time on social media, why don't you share time with your family? Why don't you spend time with your family? Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, Miranda, you have a question here. Grimacing. A grimacing face. Is it like a sad face? Uh can be like a sad face, but it's almost kind of like a painful face. Like, oh, like that not happy face. It could be painful. It could be you're doing something that's very hard. So you have a grimacing face. It could be that you're sad. You're uncomfortable looking face. Desk calendar. Yes, you can say that for sure, Fighting Boars. Yes. Perfect. And Supergirl, instead of spending so much time playing games on your phone, why don't you have a screen-free day? Yeah, that would work. Screen-free day. That means no. That's a perfect sentence, by the way. No iPhone, no iPad for a day. Could you do it? Could you do it? That's a great idea. But it probably doesn't solve the whole your battery always draining. You probably would need to delete some apps as well. But for short term, yeah, that's a great idea. And desk, yeah, like I said, if I was desk calendar, that works. No problem. Could you guys handle a screen-free day? All right, Paramash, I like this as well. Instead of not putting, I would say instead of installing unwanted apps, why don't you recheck your phone apps? Yeah. Why don't you recheck the ones you have? The ones you have. Instead of installing unwanted apps, why don't you recheck the ones you have? Yeah, that's so the desk apps, you're gonna, but I wouldn't, yeah, we call it desk calendar. Yeah, that would work. Not a rolling calendar, but a desk calendar. It's also like the old, like old vocabulary word. A lot of like long time ago, like my parents, my dad's generation, they would have a thing on their desk. It was called a Rolodex, and this was a like a small little kind of box, and it had many cards in it with the spine binding, and the Rolodex had all of your contact information. Any person that you knew was in that. So you would go through, you would roll through the Rolodex to find all of your contacts. Uh, desk calendar is just that, Miranda. It's a calendar that you put on your desk, and it's got kind of like that. What does it look like? It kind of looks like this, and you're gonna have like these little the metal rolling things here, like it's like a binder almost. I can't really draw on here, but if you get the idea, kind of like this, and then you can roll through the calendar. You can, whenever it's the next month, you just you turn the calendar to the next month. Let's see. Installing, yes, perfect. Yeah, installing. Perfect. You're very welcome. Could you spell it? Rolodex. Okay. Rolodex is going to be spelled. Again, nobody has a Rolodex anymore, but it would be spelled like this. Rolodex was spelled like this. Rolodex. You know what? I'm gonna actually show you what like an old school Rolodex would look like. Let me stop sharing this for a second. I have to show you this. I've never seen a Rolodex in real life. I've seen it on old movies and things like that. And of course, you can see it on the internet, which I'm going to show you right now. This would be a Rolodex right here. Here's like the typical Rolodex. And this is like one that's been used. You can see they've written all the contact information, the addresses, phone numbers. That was a Rolodex. This is before they had like journals or calendars, like proper calendars or address books. You're very welcome. Fibers. Yeah, something. That's the only thing I've heard with roll in it would be the Rolodex. All right, so let's put that lesson back on the screen there. Yeah, everybody had a great one for number 10. My phone battery drains quickly. Let's do a little bit of homework here as well. What I'll do is I'll put a couple on here. It's up to you. If you want to just do one, that's fine. I'll put two on the screen. So it's up to you if you want to do one or two. But I've got here 11 and 12. Number 11 says, I'm trying to save money. I'm trying to save money. Then maybe the problem is restaurants. I love restaurants. I love eating out. That could be one of the problems. But restaurants is kind of your theme. It's an idea to use. Number 12, my skin feels dry. My skin feels dry. And I've got the idea of lotion. I've got the idea of lotion. And if I was, yeah, you can do it now if you want. Yeah, for sure. You can do it now for sure. I'm here. I got nowhere to go. I'm at home. So first one, yeah, trying to save money. Second one, your skin feels dry. If you want to do it now, like if you're live right now with me, yeah, feel free to do it right now. I can check it right away. Anybody watching on the replay, you know, do it, send it, put it into the comment section. I'll check it as well. Again, there's so many different answers, right? Because this is advice. There's more than one type of advice to give. So you can always have a different answer than what I've said or what anyone else has said here. So Fighter Zeros, instead of squandering your money on luxury restaurants, why don't you cut down on your luxuries and save some bucks for rainy days? Perfect. It's a great sentence. It's a really, really good sentence. Miranda, instead of splurging up in restaurants, you should save money. Not up. What I would say here, instead of splurging on restaurants, splurging on. Okay, another great vocabulary word, splurging. So you got fighting words with squandering, and then Miranda, splurging. That's great, great vocabulary words. Very advanced vocabulary words. So instead of splurging on restaurants, you should save money. I had that problem in New York. I splurged and squandered a lot of money in New York and on restaurants. Great, great answers by both of you. All right, Paramesh. Instead of having food at restaurants most of the time. So most of the time, let's put it at the end there, Paramesh. Instead of having food at restaurants most of the time, why don't you become aware of health and wealth? Okay. Instead of having food at restaurants most of the time, why don't you become aware of health and wealth? I like it. I like it, Paramesh. Nice. All right, another way we can see parameshs here is having food at restaurants. Another easier way to say it is instead of eating out, instead of always eating out, why don't you become aware of health and wealth? Why don't you try to save money instead of wasting your money on restaurants? Why don't you eat in? Okay, instead of letting your skin dry, you could apply it. No lotion is uncountable, so we can't put we can't put with lotion. So I like your sentence. I would add a little bit more here, right? Letting your skin dry means I want it to. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, go ahead. I'll let you become dry. So I would add a little bit more. So instead of waiting too late, okay, instead of your skin waiting too late and your skin becoming dry, why don't you, or you could apply lotion every day? Okay, instead of waiting too late and your skin becoming dry, why don't you apply lotion every day? It's a difficult sentence, so I'm going to put a banner there for that. Instead of waiting too late and your skin becoming dry, you should be. Okay, so difficult sentence. Instead of waiting too late and your skin becoming dry, you should be applying lotion every day. Why don't you use some lotion to moisten? Moisten. The verb is moisten. So just add an en to that. Why don't you use some lotion to moisten your skin instead of standing in front of me like a dehydrated potato? Okay, dehydrated. I just made that up. All right. Yeah. Yeah, I've never heard of that before, but it's funny. I like it. That works. I can understand it. I've never seen a dehydrated potato though. Maybe dehydrated raisin. Instead of standing in front of me like a prune or a raisin, they're already dehydrated a bit. But yeah, I like it. It's great. I understand that completely. Instead of having food at restaurants, why don't you get aware of health and wealth? Perfect, Paramesh. Good. Yeah, Miranda, that's a really complicated sentence I put on there. Instead of waiting too late and your skin becoming dry, you should be applying lotion every day. Right? You could say other things to make it even easier. You know, how would I make that sentence easier? Okay, this is maybe a little bit easier, but also there's an idiom involved here. You should apply lotion to your skin instead of waiting until the last minute. Okay. If you wait until the last minute, that means it's like the very deadline of something, right? So usually it's too late, especially for, dry skin. Prune, yes, that's better. No, but I like the potato one. That's actually really funny. I like that. So by the way, without is there becoming, what form is this? Let me look at my sentence again. So your comment, by the way, without is there becoming what form? So in here, instead of waiting, right, basically this is going to be the continuous tense, but we're just not using the be verb in there. So we're going to always use instead of and then ing, right? Because I've got instead of an ing, and then I've got and. Anything that's before and must be the same form after and. So waiting, so I need to say becoming. Waiting and then becoming, right? So they have to follow the same verb tense. So I've used waiting before the and, so I have to use becoming after that and. Yes, Fighters, parallel grammar, exactly. Yeah, it's really English sometimes gets really, really sticky about stuff like that. Like especially whenever you have a conjunction, right? You always have to be careful about what you put in before and after. But yeah, that was a little bit difficult. This one's a little easier. You should apply lotion to your skin instead of waiting until the last minute. Right? You can be so many different answers, right? Instead of using lotion, why don't you go to a sauna and, use your natural sweat to moisten your skin? Instead of using lotion, why don't you use aloe? Right? There's so many different answers here. And if you do have a different answer, anybody watching, if you have a different answer, that's your, that's your cue to leave it in the comment section. But everybody, here, Fightable, Paramesh, Miranda, awesome job. Great sentences. You guys' sentences were really, really on point today. Really difficult sentences, really good vocabulary being used. So I'm very, very impressed. And with that being said, does anybody have any questions with either today's grammar or with something I've said or something completely different is also fine. And remember, tomorrow I will be doing another live tomorrow. Tomorrow will be 1 hour earlier. I'll be doing it 1 hour earlier on Thursday. Fibers, thank you as well. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. All right, guys. So yeah, like I said, I will be doing another live tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday in Japan. I'm not sure what date it is for you. I think for most people it'll be Thursday. It'll be at between like 10:45 and 11 p.m. So it's going to be about 1 hour earlier than today's lesson. It all depends on the traffic for me getting back home. But I'm going to aim for 10:45 p.m. But it could be a couple of minutes or 10 minutes later than that. So but it will roughly be in that time frame. So I hope I see you guys all there. Anybody watching on the replay, make sure you got two questions here you can do for homework. Leave those answers in the comment section and come join me tomorrow. And in the meantime, thank you all for joining. I hope this lesson was helpful. This is kind of an advanced way to give advice or suggestion or alternative ideas. So I hope you liked it. Miranda, thank you as well. Right back at you. Thank you guys all. Have a great night or great day or whatever time it is where you are. And everybody be safe and see you guys tomorrow, hopefully. All right. See ya.